I hate river tables. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about how stupid and ugly river tables are. Anyone who makes river tables, what the hell are you even doing? They're so stupid. Nobody, honestly, and I believe this 100%, nobody can think they look good. I think people are addicted to the feeling of pouring liquid into a big hole, and that's why they do it. I personally think they're horrible, and they're not gonna last. In 10 years, people are gonna be like, what the hell were we thinking? Why do we think that was cool? All right, that's all I have to say about that. Hi, I'm Jason Hibbs. That's how you do it, Bourbon Moth style. I run Bourbon Moth Woodworking, which originally started out as a custom furniture design company. I do custom furniture, everything from coffee tables, dining room tables, chairs, built-ins, cabinetry. And then somewhere along the line, I made the switch into a full-time content creator. So my shop is on our property in the Willamette Valley in Oregon, and I just do stuff. I build things and put things together. Yeah. The Willamette Valley. It's kind of a unique place. It's a depression that was actually carved out by a glacier like 10 years ago, or maybe it was like 10 million, I forget. I'm really bad with facts like that. But a glacier came through, so I hear, I wasn't around when it happened, from the North Pole, and it carved out this giant valley. It's really fertile soil, so there's a lot of farming and agriculture. It's a huge wine scene. We're in the grass seed capital of the world, so that's exciting. We're at the Hardwood Center. It's my go-to place for lumber, family-owned business, great prices. You can order whatever you want. We're after poplar. So I wound up here specifically in the Willamette Valley because I met a girl. It's an age-old story. I was working at a summer camp and I met this girl. We were both counselors. We fell madly in love. Actually, that's not true. I thought she was weird and kind of gothic and awkward. And then we became friends over the course of the summer, and we kept in touch. And she lived in the Willamette Valley. I lived in Arizona at the time, but I decided, hey, I want to be closer to that cute girl. So I moved to Oregon, finished up my schooling in Oregon, and settled here. The rest is history. We have a beautiful 6-year-old son together, and it's not a bad life. It's not bad. Look at this. Giant slab of maple, $265. What a steal. The way I got into woodworking is kind of unique. I was vacationing down in Mexico, and I went out one morning super early to get a beer, because I was on vacation, so you can have beer for breakfast. And I was walking to this little corner pub to get a cerveza, and this van pulls up, and 3 guys jump out and throw me in the back of the van and put a bag over my head. They take me out of the city to this really remote complex. I didn't know where I was, and they basically informed me that I was now their prisoner, and to be freed, my family was gonna have to come up with thousands of dollars, which we didn't have. But the leader of this cartel, if you will, told me that I could work off my freedom if I could build furniture for his house. I didn't know how to build furniture, but I quickly made myself learn, and I decked out his entire house. I did a couple river tables and some pallet stuff, and that's kind of what got me my start. That's not true at all. Sorry, that just sounds way cooler. We bought a house and we needed furniture for our house, and we were poor. And so being the man I am, or at least trying to be like macho man, I was like, honey, I can build that. So I bought a bunch of tools and started fumbling around. I didn't know how to use a table saw. I didn't even know what a chop saw was, but I read some blog and I was like, these are the tools you need to start woodworking. So I just added everything to my cart, set up a little wood shop, and it was pretty sketchy at the beginning. The first time I used a table saw, I had this horrible kickback and this piece of plywood spun around and almost nailed me in my man bits. So it was a little scary, but little by little, watching a lot of YouTube videos and reading a lot of woodworking magazines, I slowly kind of started to figure things out. Built ourselves a bunch of furniture for our house, and then we had friends and family members that would come over and be like, oh, I didn't know you did woodworking, I need a coffee table. So I kind of started doing things for other people, and eventually I realized, hey, I could probably turn this into a business. So I started just taking on custom orders, and it was strictly part-time at first, and then kind of snowballed into a full-time business. So a lot of people ask me what my style of woodworking is, what I like to do. And because I started out just trying to make money in the beginning any way I could, I said yes to everything. So it's hard to say if I personally have a style. I know lots of people, they really get into a specific genre of woodworking and think like, this is what I want to do, whether it's mid-century or modern or industrial or whatever. But for me, the fun was just trying something new every week. So I liked that every client was different, every client had a different style, every client had a different vision, and I had to like somehow capture that. It was like each week's a new challenge. But that being said, I never really feel like I developed a style of my own. I ended up doing a lot of like built-ins and cabinetry and that sort of thing, but I wouldn't say that's my style. I just am in it for the challenge, which is nice now that I've transitioned into content and I can do whatever I want. So each week I can just try something new and go for it and see what happens. I fail a lot, and a lot of things are ugly, but that's the nice thing about YouTube is you can make them look prettier and nobody knows. We're at Block 15 Brewery. It's a brewery. Yeah, that's the awesome thing about Oregon is there are an insane amount of good breweries and beers and establishments where you can procure beverages. Am I looking down there? Up there? When I started a business, in my mind, I thought there were all these boxes I had to check to be a legitimate business. I had to have a business name, I had to have a website, and I had to have a social media presence. At first, I thought I was gonna post pictures of my finished work on Instagram, specifically just to kind of build a portfolio and find more clients. And that happened a little bit, but what ultimately ended up happening was I started gaining a following on Instagram, not of potential clients, but of other woodworkers that were interested in my work. So when I realized that, I started changing what I was posting from not just finished, polished pictures of like a final piece, to I started doing a lot more of the process photos and how I was building stuff. And when I started doing that, my following on Instagram took off pretty quickly, but it was 95% other makers, other woodworkers, people just starting out. So I did Instagram for a long time. I started kind of becoming a content creator in the sense that I was getting some sponsorships there. And every brand I worked with was like, man, you have to get on YouTube. YouTube's where we really want to spend our ad money and this and that. Amateur hour. You have to enter the scene. Like that. I didn't have a desire to be a content creator. I loved doing custom furniture. And then last year, it was end of January, I decided, man, maybe I'll try and do a few YouTube videos. So I think I filmed one or two. They were okay, I threw them on YouTube. And then this whole pandemic thing happened. Normally I was booked 5-6 months out, so I had everything lined up on what I was gonna build. And pretty much all my clients contacted me and said, hey, we don't know what's gonna happen with this pandemic. We don't know if we're gonna have jobs or money, so just hold off on making our pieces. So I took that opportunity to just dive headfirst into YouTube. I thought, well, if I'm not building stuff for clients right now, I'm just gonna build stuff and put it on YouTube. And the first thing I decided to build for whatever reason was trying to turn my riding lawnmower into a tank.
A woodworker near Albany decided to put that time and his woodworking skills to use.
And that kind of lit the fire for me for YouTube. It just grew really fast, faster than I expected it to. And so after about 6 months, I made the decision that, man, I think I could just do this full time, which is great because now any idea I have, anything I want to explore, anything I want to build, I can do and justify in the context of content, which has been a lot of fun. Table saw. Over there, I got a planer, joiner, dust collector, lathe. I got some clampy things and some measuring doodads. I got a little sink to wash my hands, rinse off fruit. I can, strain pasta, whatever. And then I got a router table, but I use that just to pile junk on. I got a bandsaw and a drill press. This is a air filtration system. Never used that. When I look back at everything I've made, the few projects that really stand out, it's funny. It's always the ones that I'm really afraid to do. The ones I think I'm probably not capable or have enough skills to do. The number one thing that stands out is the boat. That was a super intimidating project for me. It was something that when I started woodworking, even before I was into woodworking, I just thought it was like this cool thing. The idea of building your own boat was it was kind of a dream of mine. I just thought, how cool would it be to build your own boat and be able to take it down a river or put it out on a lake? So when I made the switch to content, I decided, man, I'm gonna just go for it and see if I can build one. So I bought a set of plans, and that by far was the hardest thing I've ever built, but it was also the most rewarding. It took the longest. I'd never done any single piece that took longer than probably 2 weeks before. And this one took about 3.5 months. So it was a journey, but the struggle and the difficulty of it, honestly, is what made it the most rewarding and fun. The boat's a McKinsey style drift boat. So the McKinsey River is a river in Oregon. It's got super shallow water, so they designed the shape of this boat to go in just a few inches of water. You only need about 3 inches. So it's really good for small streams and low rivers. It's made out of akume plywood, which is in the mahogany family. And then it's got white ash ribbing. So it's a super lightweight boat. I can lift it up myself if I need to.
My dad caught one! Yay!
It's giant! And so now it's kind of opened up my eyes to maybe what other things are out there that I wouldn't have considered as projects before, but could be fun to try and do. The things that motivate me are subtle changes in nature. Dew on the grass. Maybe it's a bug crawling up the stem of a flower. Maybe it's a petal falling from a freshly bloomed tree, alighting softly on the ground. No, actually none of that crap motivates me. I don't know. I think it's the fun and just enjoyment of building that motivates me. I am really fortunate that I absolutely love my job. I love coming out to the shop every day and working with my hands. I love seeing a pile of wood go from just a few sheets of plywood and some boards to something functional and usable. I like, on YouTube especially, the interaction between me and my subscribers and seeing their excitement or their input or ideas, and then sometimes I can roll those into my projects. All that stuff keeps me going. My family's a big motivation. Obviously, I want to succeed so that I can support my family. But I think it all boils down to just the pure enjoyment of building and creating. That's what does it for me. Because my shop is on our property and I don't have any employees, and there are some times where I'll go a week or 2 weeks and really never leave our property because everything I need is here as far as working and filming and editing. My main support system is other friends and relationships I've made in the maker community online. It's nice because I can be all alone in my shop but still have those interactions with people on Instagram and YouTube, and there's a few other makers that have been very kind to me in their willingness to share information and give advice. Other people that have made YouTube and Instagram kind of their full-time career have shared a lot of their wisdom with me, which has been awesome. So even though I'm alone most of the time, I feel very supported through those online connections. Yeah, my family has a huge role in what I do. My son especially. A lot of my projects stem from, actually I think the lawnmower tank was his idea originally.
Quit playing around already! Dad, mow the lawn!
Because I've taken him on the lawnmower every time I mow the lawn since he was about 1 year old. And one day he was like, "Dad, this thing, it steers just like a tank." And then he started asking, like, could we make it into a tank? And so that's really what gave me the idea for the tank. And there's been a ton of other things that he's been involved in. I loved hearing his creative process, but it was just kind of that. Now that I'm doing content, I have the ability to be like, yeah, let's take this idea from a 6-year-old and actually do it, because that would be really, really cool. And then my wife's also another big contributor to the content. More because I've been slowly remodeling our house for 10 years, and she's finally like, you have to finish this or I'm gonna cut you. The nice thing is I can roll that into content. So I can work on my house, but I can show people what I'm doing. And I'm getting a lot more done that way, which is great. It's kind of a mess back here, but this was our original business. We'd do hand-drawn illustrations and we'd custom print them on tea towels and napkins and tote bags and t-shirts and all sorts of stuff. So when I started doing woodworking full-time, she kept going with that and she's been doing awesome, and then I just do woodworking. So we work side by side with a wall in between us, like any good marriage. Man, I'm so bad at dreaming or like planning for the future. I talked to some of these other people doing content, and they have like 2-year goals and 10-year goals and 20-year goals of where they want their channel to be and how they want to grow and this and that. I don't even know most of the time what video I'm doing next week or what project I'm doing. I just am kind of hanging on for the ride. Obviously, I would love to see it grow to a point where it's just completely sustainable and not have to worry as much about, oh, I have to make sure this video does well, or maybe we're not gonna eat next week. So I'd love to see it get to that point, but for now, I'm just enjoying doing it. I also do a podcast called Shop Sounds, which you should go listen to, but this is my recording booth. I spend a lot of time on it, and if I get really rowdy and I spill a drink on my shirt, it's okay because I'm in my closet. I have in the back of my head that this could all come crashing down in a year or 6 months and it'll be back to custom furniture, but I'm totally okay with that too, because I love that lifestyle. I love doing custom stuff as well. So for now, my goal is just to enjoy every minute of it, and if it ends, hey, it was fun while it lasted. Of course, drinking a glass of bourbon while I fed stuff through the table saw. And in flutters this moth through an open window, and he landed in my bourbon glass, got wildly drunk. I nursed him back to health over the course of a few days, gave him some tomato juice to help his hangover, and then I thought bourbon moth.